Blessings, everybody. This is Dr. Lori once again coming to you with another episode of the Still Whole Wellness Podcast here on YouTube, trusting that this video finds you well and at peace. I know I say this every single episode. I know you guys are probably like, whatever, Dr. Lori, but I really am excited about having this young lady on with me today because we just have worked so closely together and she really has just become so much a part of my heart. I'm so honored to have Miss Emani with me tonight. How are you, Imani?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dr. Lori?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and share your story with us today. You have a very, very unique story. At least I think it's unique.
Mhm.
And so I'm really eager for you to share your story with the viewers today. And I already know you're going to be a blessing to somebody.
And I'm hoping.
So, so Imani, let's kind of give just a little background on who you are. So, you are currently you just graduated, right? With your BS degree.
Yes,
Congratulations to you,
thank you. Took long
right?
enough.
That is like such just such an accomplishment and just something that's really close and near and dear to my heart. Anytime I can see women of color that are educating themselves and making those moves to move themselves forward, it just always just is a special place in my heart. So, and you got your degree in child development, and I was like so surprised when you told me that, because that's one other thing that you and I have in common that I was sharing with you, that my AA degree is in child development. So it's
Yes.
really cool. um, you are you're currently living in Georgia. How do you
Mhm.
like Georgia?
It's very interesting. It's
Really?
very different from California.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I was talking to an aunt of mine earlier today, and she was saying that, and she lives in Georgia as well. And she was saying that, just the atmosphere of the African American community and entrepreneurship and
Yes.
education and things like that is just a whole different vibe out there. So,
Yeah.
um, and then lastly, of course, you are a client of Still Whole Wellness. So, would you would you like to tell the viewers how you came to be a client of Still Whole Wellness?
Well, that's a very interesting story. My mom actually came to me one day. It was like a regular smuggler day. She came to me and she was like, "I signed you up for something," and I was like, "Okay, oh, that's cool." I was like, "What'd you sign me up for?" She says, "Oh, I have a friend who's a life coach, and you're gonna do it. So I signed you up for tomorrow at 2 o'clock." I said, "Okay, no plans. I didn't have any. Maybe I had some homework or maybe I had a date. It's okay.
Right,
Cancel it. Just cancel it. Tomorrow you have an appointment."
right.
So it's kind of like she kind of just threw me out there. And
Hmm.
that's kind of how I met Dr. Lori and Still Whole Wellness.
I always just like crack up at that story because like it low key is like something that my mom would do too. So every time you tell that story, it just tickles me a little bit. But I'm very glad that your mom kind of threw you in there. But I definitely feel like, especially since you came on board pretty early on, with the reboot of Still Whole Wellness, I really feel like you've been such a great additive to the family over here. So I'm glad to have you on board.
Thank you. I'm glad to be an addition to it.
Hmm. Okay, so let's kind of get into the thick of it of why we're here. What I would like for you to share your story. I know that another thing that kind of we have in common is we're both multiple survivors of sexual trauma, right?
Mhm.
But I, for the purpose of today, I would like for you to kind of focus on that first assault and kind of take us through that and tell us what that was all like for you.
Um, okay. It was my freshman year of college, actually.
Mhm.
And I knew this guy who was in the same dorm building. Actually, it was a co-ed dorm building. Um, and it was his birthday, and everybody, he had like some friends, and some of my roommates were there, and it's like a little small shindig or whatever. Um, And, everything was fine. Everybody was getting along. Everybody was laughing, playing games. And, later in the night, I kind of broke off with him and someone else. Um, and, some things started to happen. I did know him for a very short period,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't like, I was best friends with him or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I, in a way, I kind of barely knew him, but knew him at the same time.
Okay.
Um, but after all the festivities of everybody, we kind of break off. Like I said, it was me, him, and someone else. Um, and then things started to happen. And at that point, there was a point where I started to get really uncomfortable, and I didn't know what to do. Um, and the only reason I started to get uncomfortable was because it was my first time. I didn't even know what sex was. I didn't know how to do it. I mean, obviously I've seen it. Um, I've heard things about it, but like actually doing anything about it, it was scary. So I, at a point where I started to get really uncomfortable, I told him to stop. And, you know, there was a gesture that I did that tried to make him stop, but he kind of forced my hand down and continued to keep going. And then at that point, I felt trapped. Um, and I didn't know what to do after that. Like it just, the next morning, I felt really discombobulated. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. And at church, like I went to church the next morning,
Mm-hmm.
and my mind was just all over the place. I was thinking about this, I was thinking about that. I was like, it's my fault. And then I was like, it's not my fault. Um, I was, I was mad at myself, mad at the world. And then it was funny actually, because that day in church, they were talking about, God. The theme was God is love and love is God.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to use that as a reminder to not talk down on myself, but that it really didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was just negative thoughts after negative thoughts. Like, Monty, you're stupid. Monty, you did this. Monty, this is your fault. Monty, you
Mm-hmm.
should have left. Monty, you should have said something. Monty, you should have spoke up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it
That
was,
that guilt and shame, that's a lot. It is definitely one of the biggest hurdles, that we as survivors have to kind of push through. And it is hard. It's really
mhm,
hard for everything that you're saying right now, that more often than not, we are going to blame ourselves, more often than not, we are going to have that negative, internal dialogue, um, but what I where your story is interesting to me, and kind of different from me, is I want to say that you and one other client might be the only ones that I know of where this actually took place in a college dorm, and that really stands out for me because well, probably for me because I never went to college, traditional college. I went to like private colleges, but when I think of a college dorm, I'm thinking in my mind, like, this is supposed to be a place that is safe. Parents are sending their kids off to college every single year. So to know that, the reality of the fact that this can absolutely still happen, on the confines of a college dorm and the college grounds is kind of foreign to me, I guess, so that's what kind of stood out for me. Well, how were things days after? Because I would imagine you're in the same dorm building. How were things after? Were you seeing him on campus and things like that after?
um, actually, it was the days after it happened. It was crazy because I had told, after the incident had happened, I had told my RA
Mm-hmm.
about the situation, and then she involved the school, and there was like an investigation. There was no contact between me and him. I did see him one time afterwards, maybe like 2 days after, and I was walking with um an advocate, not sexual advocate. She was an advocate for women's gender, my RA, and then one of the police officers. And we were walking from the dorm room to upper campus.
Mm-hmm.
And he was walking past us and was smiling and waving at me, like he was kind of like oblivious to what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was walking with my head down and just not even looking. My face was just
Yeah.
just kind of like uncomfortable and weird.
Well, I do want to say that I'm very glad that you did speak up for yourself, and that you did reach out for help. That is something that, again, that is very challenging for us to do as survivors, largely because of that guilt and shame piece of thinking that it's our fault. So the fact that you did reach out to other people and let other people know that this had happened, I think that is very, very brave of you, and I commend you for doing that. Um, I know we didn't really talk about this in our pre-interview, but I kind of feel guided to ask you, what advice would you give to a young lady that is or a young gentleman for that matter that is trying to decide if they want to um, report the assault or not? Like, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I could definitely say that holding it in is very traumatic. It's very damaging. Um, Having that voice stomped on and demeaned in so many ways, it's a challenge, and it can hurt you physically, mentally, emotionally. Um, and the only way to be able to free you from that jail is to say something.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Anything, to someone that you know that you're safe with, to someone that you know that you can trust. Um, that's the only way you can free yourself.
Yeah. And so I recall in our pre-interview, you said that you actually had a friend that you guys all three kind of got together and talked about this. Can you tell us a little bit about that
Uh,
situation?
yeah. So I had a roommate who was living in the same dorm corridor as me. And I felt really close with her. I felt really trusting with her. She was very kind and she listened, before when we first moved in and when we would hang out all the time and stuff. So I felt kind of guided to say something to her.
Hmm.
And she was actually with me before the incident happened. And she was saying things like, Monty, I think you should come with me. And, I think it's time to go. And, my stubbornness was just not listening. So knowing the fact that she was looking out for me,
Hmm.
I knew that I could trust her.
Hmm.
So when I told her, she told me that, do I feel comfortable of having a conversation with him and telling him what happened and how I felt about it?
Hmm.
At first, I was like, no, not at all. Like, why would I do that?
Hmm.
That's just gonna make how I feel worse and make the situation, this whole investigation and everything just worse. And I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to face it. I just want to turn away and just keep on walking.
Hmm.
But she eventually built the courage in me to have a meeting with him. And the meeting was kind of weird
Hmm.
at first because I didn't really know how to explain it. Um, I basically, we basically talked about, what happened. I told him what happened, how I felt. I told him that I told you to stop and you didn't.
Hmm.
Um, and you made assumptions about me because someone else was also there, and it made you do what you did and made you do certain things that weren't very comfortable to me without even asking my permission.
Hmm.
Um, and you basically broke that line of trust, and it just baffled me. Um, and especially, what really hurt me the most was when I explained that him, when I tried to stop him, he basically stopped me from stopping him.
Okay.
And he explained it as, oh, it's just, it's just rough sex, and that's just
Mhm.
how it is. Okay, well, did you know that I was a virgin? Did you ask if I was okay with doing that? Did you ask, what was healthy enough for me to do or to not do? You didn't ask anything. You
Mhm.
assumed and just went straight for what you wanted.
Mhm. And I think the other piece of your story. First of all, I think that your friend was awesome. Even though that was an uncomfortable conversation, for you guys to have together, the fact that she didn't let you have that conversation by yourself.
Yes.
The fact that she was there and held space for you and clearly helped you to feel safe enough to confront him, which is super brave, by the way. i
Yeah.
i don't know, as a freshman in college, I don't know if I would have had the bravery to, or the words to have been able to do that at that time. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I would have ever attempted to even have a conversation with him at all. She basically she forced me to do it. She was like,
Okay.
"Why do you need to do this? You need to do this. And if you don't feel comfortable, I'm there for you. I'll hold your hand. If you need a minute, we can walk outside and come
And so
back in."
was this before or after the investigation took
It
place?
was actually during the
Oh, it was
investigation.
during the, okay,
Yeah,
okay. And
it
so
was like the
then,
day after.
may I ask, like, whatever happened to him? What was the outcome for him? Was he prosecuted? Was he kicked out of school?
Hmm, no. Um, it was just they told us it was like we had a restraining order between us. I think he was I want to say he was either a junior or a senior. Whoo, junior or a senior in college. So he was almost leaving. He was almost graduating.
Hmm.
But we had a restraining order between us. But it was also kind of difficult because I would see him on campus sometimes.
Hmm.
And then we were also a part of BSU, which is
Okay.
a Black Student Union on
Hmm.
campus.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like I would have to dodge him at that, or I would completely stop going to the meetings. Um,
So
yeah,
you had to curtail your engagement on campus because of him,
mhm.
because of not wanting to run into him. I'm going to be honest and tell you that I'm a little annoyed right now for you. Um, Goodness, like I know we've kind of talked about your story, but I don't know if I really understood that piece of your story.
Mhm.
Um, that is very upsetting to know that the school had knowledge that this took place, and the fact that there were no real consequences for
Yeah.
him is extremely disheartening for me. So I can only imagine how you feel. How are you kind of dealing with that? How do you navigate that?
Um, I mean, it was very challenging at first. It's I didn't really have that much to do on campus because I was a freshman and I was just starting to fill the campus out and
Hmm.
fill out the clubs and everything. Uh, but it was kind of a challenge because I did have a fear that I would see him because it's campus is really not that big.
Hmm.
It's big, but it's not that big. All the classes are near each other and stuff. So I've had a fear that I would definitely run into him. If I did see him, I would have to walk the opposite way or I would kind of run the other way or whatever because I felt really uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Um,
And isn't
they
that something that he is the one who violated you, but yet you were the one that was left feeling uncomfortable and like you had to kind of change your pattern, and that is, yeah.
and I in addition to that, I feel like that happened only because during the investigative process when they were interviewing me, I kept saying, "Oh, well, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's just it was me. I should have spoke up." I felt like I was covering his bases as well,
Hmm.
and then trying to cover mine. And they kept telling me it's not your fault. And for some reason, I was trying to save his butt
Hmm.
for some reason, and it was I don't know
What do they
why. And I
call
feel
that?
like
It was like Stockholm syndrome or something like that, I think it's called,
that's
where
yeah.
where
something
you
like
kind of, yeah, you end up kind of taking accountability or trying to protect the accuser.
yeah.
Very interesting. Um, the other piece of your story that I wanted to kind of highlight was actually two things. So, and I want to go here only because obviously this channel is all about helping other people to hear their story right through you, and find something that kind of connects them to your story, and then them being able to hear how you have kind of worked through it, right?
Mhm.
So I know that in our pre-interview you mentioned a couple things. First, you mentioned that although the two of you hadn't had sex before, that you had been physically intimate with him, like kind of making out and things like that, right? Um, and so can you kind of talk to us a little bit about that, and how you are dealing with the guilt that might be associated with that piece?
Ugh, okay. So our relationship before any physicality happened, um, we were friends. I mean, we hung out sometimes, we did homework sometimes. It wasn't really like a close relationship, but it's like we knew each other and we had conversations.
Gotcha.
Um, and we didn't do anything physical before that.
Okay, my apologies. I'm sorry. I
No, it's like no,
misunderstood.
I don't think I
Okay.
ever mentioned that, but we never did anything physical before that up until that night. Um,
Ah, okay.
yeah. So, the also, the guilt that built up after that, um, it was it did a lot of damage over the years,
Hmm.
definitely after the fact. Um, I had to basically reconstruct my mind. I had to reconstruct how I felt about my body. I had to reconstruct how I felt about myself. I mean, for the longest after that, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. Um, I felt ugly. I felt like I was way too skinny. Just I didn't think I was, attractive to other people. I wasn't attracted to myself. It did a
Your
lot of damage.
self-esteem just like
Yeah, it just went
kind
down
of.
the toilet.
Hmm. Wow, that the guilt and the shame. I tell you, it is by far one of the most challenging things that I've had to overcome as well. It's just tough to work through. It's tough to work through, and especially when you have been assaulted multiple times, to not have that guilt and shame, and to not in some way feel like, is there something that I'm doing that is like causing people to, am I wearing a sign that is saying, violate me? Like it's a tough energy to shed from yourself.
Yeah.
But I know that you are well on your way to doing just that. Um, so one of the things that you did talk about, that I really wanted to highlight today was you mentioned that your intuition, there was a moment, um, just before the assault happened, where your intuition was kind of kicking in. Do you recall that in our
Yeah.
pre-interview conversation? Okay, can you share that with us?
Um, Man, I wish I could have listened to my intuition. Thank God, it was very, very bad back then. I would so before anything ever happens,
Hmm.
um, I had this feeling that just grew on me that was very strong. I kind of brushed it off at first, but then it came back stronger. I started to feel it physically. I started to get, a minor headache. I started to feel pain in my stomach. Um, my throat kind
This
of got
was
a little tight.
this was warning you for what exactly?
At the moment, I didn't know. I
Okay.
mean, it was telling me to leave, or it was telling me you don't need to be here. Especially, it got really strong, especially when my friend, my roommate that I was speaking about earlier, when she told me, like, it's time to go. And I was like, no. that's when I really should have listened. That's when I really should have went with her, because that's when I started to really feel it.
Hmm. And so you mentioned that you wish that you had listened to your intuition.
Mhm.
So, and again, something else that's also very common with survivors, where that ability to trust yourself again, let alone anyone else, is damaged after being
Yes.
assaulted. So, talk to us a little bit about how you have kind of rebuilt that intuition, and how are you able to distinguish your intuition from fear?
That is a very good question. It took me a while to really build back my intuition, to even listen to it, to acknowledge it.
Hmm.
Um, I've done At first it was very hard, because I would hear it, I would feel it, and then, like, like I'm used to, I would brush it off.
Hmm.
And then I started to see that I would be in different situations, or similar situations, um, with similar outcomes, that were all negative. And it was
Mm.
like, I need to figure out, like, okay, Monty, you need to figure out what's going on, because
Hmm.
obviously something's not right.
Hmm.
Um, so for me to really recognize my intuition, I had to recognize that feeling, like, okay, um, your body, your mind, the universe, yourself, you are talking to you, and you're
Mm.
ignoring yourself, and yourself is it's pleading, it's crying, and you're ignoring yourself. Um, so in order for me to even just start anew, I had to first start listening to myself,
Wow.
listening to that inner voice that's in my head, that feeling that's in my stomach,
Hmm.
um, and really see, like, I could really build from where I was from.
Hmm.
I could take the negative and make it a positive.
Boom. I dig that. That alchemy energy, right?
Yeah.
Um, you're speaking to my heart as you say that, being able to recognize, and this is what I think is just like so amazing about you and so beautiful about you, because you are very, very self-aware. You're very
Took me a
self-aware
while.
of yourself, and I think it is absolutely amazing. The fact that you were able to connect the fact that you were having those somatic symptoms, those physical symptoms, and that was your body's way of bringing your attention to that intuition, I think is absolutely amazing. It's
Mhm.
amazing. Isn't it awesome how the divine has created us to be able to have these awakenings and these awarenesses? I think is fabulous.
Yes.
um you also mentioned something, you mentioned about your voice not really being heard, that
Mhm.
there was a period of time after being violated where you really felt like no one was really acknowledging your pain. Again, another kind of like a kindred spirit kind of a moment between the two of us, because I often felt the same exact way. Talk to us a little bit about that. What was that like for you?
Um, for a while, I started to really recognize that, uh, whenever I would say anything, whenever I would voice my opinion, whenever I would express myself, coming from a hurt place, I felt like no one was listening. I felt like, it went through one ear and out the other. Um, I just felt like people were just kind of throwing me in the trash,
Mm.
no matter what I was saying, and it felt really tied down. Like, it just felt like I was invisible.
Hmm.
And it would happen within my family, it would happen within my friends, it would sometimes happen with, future partners.
Hmm.
Um, it was just really hard. And so for a long time, I would bottle everything, from my own personal thoughts, from um, things I wanted to say to people. I would bottle that. My own opinion, I would bottle it. Um, just my bottle got so overfilled,
Mm.
and it was overpouring, and it was all over the place, and it was just a mess. And whenever someone would come to me and ask me, Monty, what's wrong, tell me what's happening,
Hmm.
I would just start crying. because
Wow.
that's what's left. It's just tears.
Mm-hmm.
There's no words. There's nothing left to fill the bottle anymore, but just tears.
Mm-hmm.
So and that really took a toll on me, because that basically made me who I was for a long time, and it was very challenging to express myself from that, to break from those chains.
Mm-hmm. I think this is, so amazing. The fact that you you didn't stop talking until you felt like you weren't being heard. Like the fact that you, even after the assault, that you were trying to express your pain, you were trying to express your hurt, and no one was listening. No one was listening. Um, I had similar situations where, um, and of course, my assaults happened. The first two ones had happened a lot sooner in life than yours did, but I acted out in, or tried to express my hurt through self-interest behaviors. You can't really see it now because the skin has healed, but seventh grade, sixth grade, somewhere around there, I used an eraser and like had carved, lines here in the back of my hand, and would cut and different things like that. I love the fact that you knew to use your voice, and that you didn't take these other measures to try and express your pain, even after feeling unheard. The fact that you didn't go that route, even though bottling it up doesn't, really help
It,
either, but the fact that you didn't go the other route to harm yourself, um, I think is absolutely amazing. So how walk us through that process. How did you eventually rediscover your voice?
um, well, okay. Before rediscovering my voice, I did forget to mention that, my way of speaking my feelings, um, I would use, or actually my way of dealing with my feelings,
Hmm.
I would use, I would use sex as an answer. Um,
Ah. Hmm.
and obviously that's not healthy.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and so anything, if I was dealing with something, if I was having an anxiety attack, or if I was, depressed, or if I was going through something that I could not find a way out of,
Hmm.
I would use sex as an answer. And then after that, I'm like, oh, okay, I can talk now, or I don't have to talk about it, or it's done with.
Hmm.
Um, and that took, it wasn't, um, it wasn't, I felt like I was attacking myself more than trying to help myself. Like I noticed that I wasn't really getting answers from anything. Like again, I'm digging a deeper hole, and it wasn't solving any type of problems. I wasn't going any right direction. I'm going backwards.
Hmm.
Um, and so I started to really realize, like, okay, so what can I use that's healthy enough for me, that is, going to benefit me in the long run? What can I use to help me speak my opinion?
Hmm.
Um, I would use different methods such as journaling, which is a great way because I'm
It
basically speaking
is.
to myself.
Hmm.
Um, which is the first person I need to speak to,
Hmm.
is myself. I would also sometimes, speaking up verbally is not the best thing for me, but I'm still working on it.
Hmm.
But if I need to say something to somebody, I would write it out and give it to them, and then that would initiate a conversation. Then we'll go from there. I would also use like arts and crafts, painting. I would drink tea and read a book. Um, Dancing was definitely one.
That's
What
a good one. That heals that sacral chakra and gets
I
all of
was over
that
here
energy
moving
out the
some
way. Yeah, you got
juice.
it. Okay.
um, what else? I would also clean on the outside to help on the inside, because I felt like, usually I have this saying, if if your house is dirty, then your mind is not right.
Mm. As
Um,
within, so without.
mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
And I use
Yes.
that to this day.
Mhm.
I actually have a picture on my wall that says that to remind me, like, your house is dirty, your mind is unclear. You need to get it together. Get
It really is. It's like that physical manifestation that something is not right up here. And yeah, that's, oh, I see you. This is why I just adore you. Like you're so aware of yourself. You're so aware.
Yeah.
Um, any other tools that you kind of use as like your go-to?
Um, Definitely working out.
Oh,
I heard this, just actually I found this post on Instagram.
mm-hmm.
Um, and a friend shared it on Instagram, and this guy was yelling at his friend, and he was like, "What are we gonna do about our feelings?" And the guy was like, "Oh, we're gonna put it in my muscles." Like, he's crying about it. He was like, "We're gonna do if you're really, really emotional." He was like, "We're gonna work it out." It it was very, it resonated with me. I was like, okay,
Yeah, I
I
love that.
go back to the gym. I need to, instead of like sitting here and moping in my feelings, instead of, just crying about it all day and being depressed and having anxiety,
Mm,
the best way to do it is to work it off, shake it off.
mhm,
Dancing and working out was one of those, two of those tools. So,
mhm,
and usually after I work out, I go to the sauna because that's a way for me to open up my pores and really release the toxins and release all
mm.
energy that I had within me. Um, and I would meditate in the sauna. I don't normally meditate in the sauna, but it took me a long time to really realize, like, okay, you did it 10 times already, money. So I think,
Mhm,
um, so I would meditate in the sauna, and there's this
mhm,
song that I would always play. It's called Have Mercy,
mhm.
um, Aaron Allen Kane.
Okay.
And that song, like the first time I even heard it, I started crying. It I feel like it speaks to me. I feel like God is speaking to me. I feel like, all the energies are speaking to me. I feel like I'm speaking to whoever I want to speak to, whether it's friends, friendly, colleagues.
Mhm.
Um, it's a song that really opens up both pathways for me. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, so I advise anybody to listen to that song whenever you feel like you're stuck, whenever you feel like you can't do anything, when you feel like you're bounded and you're chained.
Mm.
That song is it's a relief. It's honestly a relief.
Beautiful.
It could be
Beautiful.
for you, but it's definitely a release.
Well, I'm definitely going to put it in the comment section when I'm in post editing. I'm definitely going to put it in the comment section because if it has resonated that much with you and has caused you to feel that sense of release, I trust that it would do the same for someone else for sure. Um, I want to ask you, like, who is your support? Like, who do you turn to vent to try and get some of this gunk out?
Yeah. Um, I've actually met um one of the other girls in our group in Still,
Hmm.
who is a great, great listener, who's a great friend. Um, I was kind of nervous to talk to her at first, but we connected. So,
Hmm. Which
um,
I love, by the way. I love the fact that you guys met in the Still Whole Wellness support group, but you guys have forged your own beautiful friendship outside of the group, and I think that that's awesome.
yeah, it was really organic. So, when usually a relationship is organic to me, I can definitely have a close relationship with you. Um,
Hmm.
and then I actually met a friend recently, at work, and also that I organic relationship, and
Hmm.
I and it just poured out.
Hmm.
Um, so I could definitely talk to her. Those are two, definitely two people I could talk to about anything, and they
Beautiful. Beautiful. Quick question for you. Do you feel that people can still be whole on the other side of sexual trauma?
definitely. definitely you could feel whole. It may feel like you're flying in outer space and no one's there and no one can reach you and no one can hear you and it's just darkness. But on the other side of that darkness, there's light.
Mm,
Um, there's always going to be a positive. There's always going to be something greater than where you are now. Um,
mm.
don't ever tell yourself that you're never going to make it, because you're going to make it. You're going to be here. You're going to see the light on the other side of the tunnel.
Beautiful. Beautiful. With all the ups and downs, with all the disappointments, with all the hurts, with all of the seemingly lack of support, the fact that you are as centered as you are, I want you to know that I think you are absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
You truly, truly are. You truly are. You're so incredibly strong, even in the moments where you shouldn't have to be strong. You have been very, very strong, and now you're in this beautiful space on the healing side now, where you're able to be there for other people and you can hold space for other people. Is if there was just something lasting that you want someone watching this to know, in order to inspire them and to uplift them, what would that something be?
Um, okay, so there's this I kind of have this routine that I tell myself after I pray or whenever I get into or I feel like an anxiety attack is coming. I always say like, you are worth it, you are beautiful, you are strong, you are more than what they say,
Mm,
you are more than what they think. God did not make you a mistake. God made you as perfect as you can be, and only you can define that perfection.
mm. Yes. Yes, and yes. That absolutely just, whew, as my father would say, it just warmed the cockles of my heart. Oh wow, that was nice. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Um, well, I feel like our time is done, but I'm sad that our time is done.
Oh,
um, this has really been really good. I know that your story is going to be a blessing to somebody. Someone needed to hear your story today. You know, you're so incredibly brave for holding this space. And again, I'm just like in awe of your insightfulness. I would think I'm in awe because I don't recall being as young as you are and being so insightful. So every time I hear you speak, it's just like, oh my gosh, she's so wise. um,
grow
uh,
up.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being willing to do this interview with me today and sharing your story, and thank you for all that you do with Still Whole Wellness. I'm so happy that you're a part of the SWW family. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me the space to tell my story. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, are you comfortable with people, if someone is listening and wants to reach out to you directly, are you comfortable with sharing your information to do that?
Yes,
Awesome.
I do have Instagram. It's Mani Perry, MANIPERRI. Actually, I changed it. It's
Oh,
actually my MANI_LANAE.
awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to put that in the comments. So if you're watching this and Imani's story has resonated with your heart and you would like to reach out to her directly, she has given us permission to be able to put that information in the comments so you can reach out to her directly. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support Still Whole Wellness and watching this channel. This is where healing happens every single day, and this is what we do here. All right, you guys be well and at peace, and we will see you on the next video. Peace and blessings.
Bye, guys.